We spend a huge part of our lives thinking about work, what it means and what it demands, what it says about us, and yet very few of us ever stop to ask whether the way we think about work is actually healthy. We are slowing that down and exploring how our thinking shapes not just our work but our whole experience of life. Welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, where we explore practical ways to care for our mental and emotional well being in everyday life. Today, I'm joined by David Firth, someone who has spent over 3 decades really helping leaders and organizations rethink how they communicate, lead, and relate to change. David's work with global organizations and his writing on communication and meaning have helped people see work not as a burden, that is just to survive another day, but as a space for growth and contribution. I really want to invite you all to this episode where we'll be exploring how to think more healthily about work and how that mindset naturally extends into life as a whole. David, I'm very honored to have you on the show today, and I believe it's going to be a very a broad discussion about life and work in general. But regardless of that, I'm excited to have this conversation.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And yes, I'm excited to have it too. Yeah.
Thank you so much, David. Before we kind of dive into the kind of mentality or call it the mindset shift or call it the frameworks, I'm curious as to when you look at how most people relate to work today, what do you wish that, it was not the case? What do you wish that it was different with people, how they relate to work today?
Yeah, lovely. I think if I could change things for people, it would be that, and maybe this is something that, hey, maybe this is something we just pass on to the next generation, because if we are, like me, 33 decades into my career, maybe it's too late for me or somebody who's 10 years in. But anyway, we can still think about what we might think about differently. I think the thing I'd most like to change is that one of the things that we are asked to do early on in our lives, in most cultures I'm aware of, is the idea that if we get a good job, that will bring us a good degree of, first of all, being an adult, because adults are supposed to have jobs and provide money and so on and so forth. And that is a good thing in and of itself. And the trouble is with that connection is that the getting of the job is tied very tightly to making money.
Hmm.
And my contention is that making money through a job is actually a very loose connection. Because if my boss turns around tomorrow and says, we're laying 100 people off, David, and you're one of them, then the job is gone and the money making is gone. So I wish that I would have liked my kids to have grown up in an education system that said, hey, everybody, one of the things that's going to be true in your life is you'll want to earn money because money buys you nice things. Let's have a look at how money is created. And the story we're told is that money is created through getting a job. I think money is created by adding value. When we add value, money arises. Whether that value is I am a consultant like me, I help my clients solve problems, they have a value to that, and they pay me my fee. At the other end of the scale, I was just talking to my car repair shop about my son's car. They fixed the car. They fixed the car from broken to fixed. That's value, and they will send me a bill and I'll pay the bill. So if we could explore as kids, what would me adding value in the world look like? And knowing that the more value I create, the more I'm guaranteed to be having some sort of measure coming in, then that's a different start to life than how do I get a job? Does that make sense?
And yeah, that does. And that indeed is, the root of, I would say, why people are not happy, with the kind of jobs because we are always looking for more, right? We're not intentionally thinking about the kind of value that we're adding. We're just thinking about on the surface level about the job in itself, right? And like you
Yes.
said, that's like a materialistic byproduct of the society itself. And so I'm curious about a belief that many people carry, often without realizing, is that work is something we have to endure, so that we can finally live later. So what do you see there as the biggest misconception, the people hold about work in general and its role in their lives?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of work as a consultant with communication and storytelling, and you're absolutely right. The idea that work is to be endured, work is a have to as opposed to a want to. Work is something that we do to pay the bills, and then if there's any other benefits, they will come after that, is a very common story in the world. But not all stories are true. And if we begin to challenge that, then we get to a different place with the concept of work. I mean, it's interesting where that story came from, and certainly for many decades, work was hard. I mean, I grew up in Yorkshire in England, where the Industrial Revolution took place, and people were working in factories and in and it wasn't much fun probably. And so, but the thing is, that's not the world we live in now. Working on the farms and in the fields is hard work. It's hard physical labor. But even then, there is more I guess, for most farmers, there is more to the reason they do the work than simply the physical labor that they do. It's what they produce, how what they produces contributes to the wider society. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. It's a place of suffering for so many people, and I think it's
Isn't it?
tied into
Yeah.
it is tied into the early experiences they had where they're told, don't you worry, if you get a job, you'll be happy. And then they find, funnily enough, that they're not.
Mm,
No.
yeah.
So,
I mean, contrary to that, I would say that I think many people associate happiness to money, right? Which is true. It
yes.
it can indeed buy you, those shining stuff that you have always
Yes.
wanted to, right? But if we stay that for a moment, David, how much of that do you think is true? I mean, does it get so bad that often we forget the value that, we have as an individual, and, we start to think about just our lives and not the bigger picture itself, that how can I maybe build something, right? Or maybe how I can add the value. Like you said, it's a very narrow-minded approach, I would say, that, if I
Yes.
go to a job, I would, let's say, whatever that job is, right? It could be a desk job, it could be
Yes.
something physical, right?
Yep.
But how much of that do you think is related to that mindset that money equals happiness?
I think that, again, is one of the key stories that many societies are based on, that there is that link. And then people find out it's not as sure as they were.
Yeah, because if you look at very successful people, right? Now, I can't say that all of them are not happy, right? I don't know about their personal lives, but it so appears that even if you're successful on paper, there are people who still feel empty. So
Yeah.
where does that come from? And if it's a good thing, because if I quote that there's like loneliness at the top, right? So what do you
Yes.
think about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my background is arts and literature and theater and things like that. So I'm not a very data-driven person, but I do know that research findings after research findings after research findings about people's happiness is actually primarily related to their relationships and their health.
True.
And money is in there. Nobody's saying we
Ye-
don't need money or we shouldn't have money. No, but I think about, and I can, as you say, we can only imagine what it's like to be Elon Musk and how happy really is Elon Musk. We have no idea. We'll probably never know.
We have no idea.
Would I be happy if I had that many billions of dollars? I've got no idea because I'll never find out. But I can speak from my own
And it's a
experience.
it's a different again, a territory to discuss. I
Yes.
think even if billionaires should exist, because there's a I mean, a very interesting thing. I'm not sure if you've heard about the recent accusation on Billie Eilish. If I don't know if you've heard that against
Oh no.
right. So so there was this so I think there was some award that was being given to Billie Eilish. That was, I think, New York Street Wall. I believe I'm not exactly sure, where Billie spoke up that if you are a billionaire, why are you a billionaire? And that stuck with me till date. I mean,
Yes.
What in the world really costs $1 billion, David? Let me ask you. And there's a huge difference.
No.
And there's a huge difference between a million and a billion, right?
Right.
There's a huge difference. Because
Oh my
if
God.
someone says, because if someone says, that I want to be a millionaire, that makes so much sense. But
Mm,
if someone really tells you today that they want to be a billionaire, right?
mm.
That okay, it's good to have aspirations, but the real question is, should they even exist? Ethically speaking.
Oh, I don't know about that. All I can say is from my own experience. I can tell you about my own experience for what it's worth, and I can tell you about experience. I mean, what is this bringing to mind is a good client of mine who, fabulous guy, great family man, great leader in business,
Hmm.
was able to retire pretty early because he'd been savvy and he'd invested and it earned well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember before he even retired, he said to me, because I was coaching him, he said to me, "Hey, David, good news. I hit the number I thought it was going to take to make me really happy." I didn't even ask him what the number was.
Yeah.
And I said, "Good for you. How you feel?" He said, "I'm not, it didn't give me what I was looking for." you know? And the good news is he still had time and energy to do something about that and find the thing that it wasn't apparently that amount.
Yeah.
Now, look, I'm also very aware that, the world is not what it was. My wife and I, when we met, were both in the theatre, which basically it meant that we were earning zero, of £100 in Britain, not much. And so we grew up together. I mean, I mean, early years before we were married, and then when we were married, where our dinner was either going to be beans and potatoes or potatoes and
Hmm.
beans,
Hmm.
and occasionally a bit of cheese on top. Yeah,
Hmm.
but were we happy? I think so. I think we were as happy
Correct.
as ever we are. And now, through the business, we've got a completely different revenue stream to what we did there. Are we as happy? Yes, because we love each other. We have a fabulous
Yeah.
relationship with each other. We do work that we want to do. We're not complaining about the things that don't happen to us, And
And
so
it's not under your control. Yeah.
it wasn't not under my control, exactly right. And we're not, we're very realistic. We choose things that we think will make us happy and not chase things that we know won't. Like another sports, let's get a sports car that will make us happy. Yeah, we
Hmm.
did that when we were younger.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, and that's I think I was the same page as you, David. But as far as the listeners are concerned, and as you guys are listening, you're probably thinking that, okay, what if your story is a bit different than what we are talking about? But hey, let me get this to a very common ground, David, so that
Yes.
I believe all of the listeners can relate to, right? So, for someone who's listening to this and feels like we're kind of stuck in this cycle of work, sorry, wake up, get ready for
Yep.
work, go to work, come back, take out for maybe a few, hardly a couple of hours for yourself or, the course that you would do, and then go back to sleep and then the cycle repeats. So somebody who's stuck in that cycle, right? What would you like to tell them, in the context of what is the healthier way to start relating to work,
Yes.
um, and finding purpose in life.
Yes.
So what would you say?
Yeah. There's a couple of things come to mind, Sayan. One is that one of the things that was true about my childhood was that I was only ever good at one academic subject, and that turned out to
Mm,
be English language and literature, which explained my early relationship with storytelling and communication and this, that, the other. And it's also left me as a bit of a geek, a sort of crazy expert on the etymology of words. And in English, the word work comes from an Old English verb, which means
okay.
to create, to create.
Okay.
Working doesn't mean get a job, go to work, do labor. It means mold something, make something, create something. Yeah. And so one of the things I'd ask people to do who have the same rhythm as everybody else, by the way, even the billionaires wake up in the morning and go to bed at night. Yeah. Um, what could they put in place? Language change at the point at which I have my breakfast, I go to work, I go to how can I add value today?
Hmm.
What can I explore at adding slightly more value that will make me feel good? And maybe my boss will notice, and the next time there's a possibility of a pay raise, maybe he'll think about me because I added that much value. What do I want to create together in my What do I want to create in my work today? Even if it's as simple as washing the dishes. My first ever way I earned money, I washed dishes in a restaurant. I turned it into an art form. I loved it. I was paid like £3 an hour, but nevertheless, I loved it. I took dirty things from here, I washed them carefully, they were clean over here. I don't know how I got that insight that it could be meaningful work, but it was. Seriously, I'm not trying to make up some sort of crazy story here. It was. It was simple work, but it was beautiful stuff. So what can I create together? And then one other thing I'd just add here as well. Years ago, I wrote a book called How to Make Work Fun for the business world. And I wrote it because I'd come from theatre into the consulting world, and I was meeting a lot of people for whom work was not fun.
Didn't.
And so I got really curious about that, and I wrote the book. And I found out, interviewing people whose work was fun, found out 4 things. And this is something that all of us can really focus on in our day-to-day work. 1, people said their work was fun if they liked the people around them. And some people say, "Oh, I'm surrounded by idiots and fools, whatever." But where's the person you can build a slightly better relationship with today during the work than you could yesterday? Yeah. So people, connection to people. The second thing that they said, that there was some sense of progress. It wasn't the goal. It was, I'm doing it slightly different and better today than I was yesterday. What can I improve in the washing of the dishes today that I wasn't doing yesterday? The third one is slightly more out of control. These people were reporting freedom. They weren't micromanaged. You know, their boss wasn't hanging over them every day saying, "Sayan, you should do it this way and that way and this way and that way." They were different. They had a measure of freedom and autonomy. And then the fourth one that they reported as making their work fun was what I call joy. They just showed up with a sense of, even when it's tough, it's not really all that bad, and we can have a joke and we can smile together and we can make fun of things, or we could talk about what happened at the football or the cricket this year, so there's that sense of joy in the midst sometimes of very challenging
And
circumstances,
belonging.
and belonging, progress, freedom, joy. Those are what make work fun for people.
Yeah, and honestly, I love the kind of honesty that you're bringing to this conversation, David. So, I mean, it's kind of nice to get to talk to you and, talk about life in general. So, for anyone who's listening to this, who kind of feels overwhelmed right now, I would say, I want to offer this reflection that if your work could not define your worth for a moment, right?
Mm.
What might become possible in how you treat yourself today? Let's
Uh,
go with that hypothesis.
yeah, the beautiful question. What could be possible in how you treat yourself today? One of the things is, one of the books I'm writing this year is called Ratty and Angelo, which is about the idea that there are 2 voices in our head that we listen to. And we tend to listen to the ratty voice a lot more. Ratty is one that it's the ratty negative, undercutting us, not making us feel good. For some reason, we have this voice in our head. I'm just saying, hey, if we listen to Angelo, who's a lot more calm and wise every so often, it might be a better life. But I think there is truth to that, which is life is challenging enough without also having a voice in our head saying, but if you'd have been born to rich parents, or if you were smarter, or if you weren't just good at English, you were good at math, you'd have had a better career. Let's do what we can to just say, thank you, Ratty. Thanks for your opinion. But today I'm not going to listen to that just as much. I'm just going to turn the volume down and let it go away a little bit. So that's the first thing. And it sounds hard, but it's a practice. Like many of the things that we do in our lives,
No, because I was asked this question um, that I remember when I joined my first job, right? And there was a
yes,
guy who came in and asked in one of the sessions that so there were 14, 15 people sitting in that room, and he asked to everyone, what is that one moment that you wanted to change in your life, right? But he says, I should have done this, I should have done that. And it came to me, all right. And I said, well, look, I'm thankful for what I have done in my life so far, right? Because if I did not do that and did that other thing that now I feel like I should have done, I might have succeeded in the short term,
Yes.
but in the long term, there is a probability that I might be in a worse scenario than what I am today, right?
Oh, yes.
So so it's that being grateful of where you are right now, right? And I mean, like you said, lowering that volume so that you
Yes.
understand the the reality as a whole from a broader perspective.
Yes. Exactly, absolutely right. We've no idea. I mean, I'm fascinated by the concept of 1,000 different universes running in parallel, and
Yeah, yeah.
but also
Which is very, very possible.
very, very possible. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And until I get to see that as a real reality of some sort, I think this is the only life we have. And what you've brought up for me, and this is talk about being honest. I'll be very honest here. I proposed marriage to a girl when I was 18 years old. I can remember
Mm.
specifically where we were. It was before I went off to Oxford University. And I often think, thankfully, she said, "Don't be stupid, David. Go off to university and live your life." If she'd have said yes, what different life would that have been? And so, moment by moment, we just don't know. But apparently, the life
Yeah.
I'm living is no, that was a no. And then we did this, and
Yeah.
then we did that, then we did that. So let's make sense of the life we're living as opposed to the possible ones we could be doing in 1,000 other universes. Yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally. I mean, that's a different, I believe, a conversation on its own that should
Yes.
do that for our listeners sometime where we talk about in depth about free will and what do we think about free will, like
Right.
is it there, is it not? But coming back to the kind of conversation that was meant for today, David. I think we're about to hit the minute mark, so I just want to share my key takeaway for my listeners, which is this, folks, that I think a healthy life doesn't begin with changing our job or doing great in your job or fixing yourself. I think it begins by changing how we think, how we speak, and relate to the work and moments that are already in front of us. All right. So I just
Beautiful.
want you to take that as a gentle reminder for the next rest of your week. And before we wrap this up, David would love to ask our listeners who want to explore your work further, where's the best place that they could find you at?
Sure. Well, my website is a good place to start. That leads to all of the courses and the books that I've written and so on. And that's davidfirth.com. So David Firth, F as in Fox, IRTH.com. I always advise people not to put David Firth into Google and chase that because you would get to David Firth, the animator. And that would get very confusing very fast. But davidfirth.com will get you to my website address.
No worries, David. Thanks for sharing. And I'll include that in the show notes as well. So they reach out to the exact you, and that is the emperor. And with that, we thank everybody for tuning in today, and thanks for spending this time with us on Healthy Man, Healthy Life. If today's conversation resonated, I want you to take a moment to reflect on what I said before, and also on the stories that you carry about work and life. Because sometimes a single shift in perspective can change the entire experience and the following consequences. So, until next time, please do take care of your mind, your life, and I'll see you on the next one.